Director. Firstly, before I pose my question, thank you so much for sitting through quite a few hours of testimony. My question is specific to Ms. Han, and you spoke earlier about freedom of expression and how in a case of incitement, and I believe it was a situation of, it is a very clear hate message which has a potential to an incitement to violence. I believe that was the statement. Now, in that sort of context, and would you countenance, let's say, take-down mechanism, a power that a government, an elected government can have? It doesn't mean that because it has that power, it will exercise that power, because each situation is different. You have to consider the Streisand effect, and so forth, backfire, and it does not mean that if you have those powers, you will compel a tech company to take down content at every occasion, because every situation is different. Now, if that was the contours of potential, well, it's the bad word for you, legislation, would that be something that could be considered and would be realistic, particularly since we would agree that in view of the international definition of or the boundaries surrounding freedom of expression, incitement to violence is a red line, and if that red line is crossed, do you think that there is actually some scope to consider in specific instances, not as a broad sweeping power to be activated all the time, for government to actually compel content, a site which hosts content like Facebook, to take down a particular site, to take down a particular post very quickly?
I believe that we already have laws that could compel this sort of takedown of content, whether it's the IMDA regulations, the Broadcasting Act. If it's a falsehood, the Telecommunications Act. If not, we have, the Penal Code, the Sedition Act, the Maintenance of Religious Harmony laws. If it's worried about undue influence of elections, we have legislation related to undue influence of elections as well. We have a lot of laws that, even if they are not specifically about targeting falsehoods, can actually be used in the instances of the harms that we think will be triggered by these falsehoods. So that my position would be that even if we say that there should be takedown, we already have laws that allow that.
Okay, so conceptually, it is not haram to have a policy where you actually have to take down something.
Yeah,
since we already have those powers.
I would urge that to be like the very last resort, but if we already have those powers, then I'm saying we don't need more, or we don't need to double up or overlap legislation.
I understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Han, if it is clear that there are gaps, because your assumption is that the laws are sufficient, but if it is conclusive that the existing legislations, all the different acts, is incomplete, is unable to address what you just mentioned, would your view change?
I would have to actually see that first.
I understand. We had the benefit of hearing of not just one professor, but a few professors who affirm those findings. But it's fair that if you've not seen it, it'll be good for you to review what they presented to us.
Thank you.